cooking really brought me a lot of joy, because that is one thing. My mom wasn't really always around because she was working all the time, single mother, and I also I jumped from a lot of different places. And so feeding myself was one of those things that at the end of the day, I can always count on.
Yeah.
And kitchen just feels like a safe place for me. And it's also a playground for me.
Coming to you straight from Fremont, California, this is the Fremont Podcast, dedicated to telling the stories of the past and present of the people and places of the city of Fremont, one conversation at a time. Now, here's your host, Ricky B.
You're listening to episode number 45 of the Fremont Podcast. I am right now sitting in a shop over in the Mission San Jose district that is not quite finished yet. If you've been on Instagram and been around the Fremont community of Instagram, you'll find that you probably came across Forest and Flower, which is a new bakery in town. And I am just going to say this at the very beginning of the conversation, that this conversation is not going to relay to you who are listening everything that you want to know about Forest and Flower or everything you want to know about Sway. I just have had a hour and a half long conversation with Sway, who's the owner of Forest and Flower, and she's an amazing person, and what she's doing here is really, really cool. And so you're gonna have to find a way to get down here and get to know her a little bit better. But I am privileged to have Sway on the Fremont Podcast with me today. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for being here.
Well, I want to hear about your shop, and I want to hear about where did the name Forest and Flower come from, and where did the vision for this all happen. But I want to learn a little bit about you before we get started, or share a little bit about you. Can you give me a little bit of your story and how you got to where we are now today in Fremont?
Yeah. So I was born and raised in Taiwan, and I moved here when I was 17 to San Francisco with my mother, who still lives there till this day. When I traveled around and lived in different cities for a little while between the age of 22 to I don't even remember. Anyways, jumped to New York and then Hawaii and then back to the Bay Area. I am a mother. I'm a small business owner. I'm a wife. I'm a lover of a lot of things.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's awesome. So, you have lived all over literally, well, the world, parts of the world. And how long have you lived in the Fremont area or in the Bay Area?
So I do not live in Fremont.
Okay.
I currently live in San Jose.
Okay.
But in the Bay Area, I want to say altogether about 17 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
On and off.
So, so if anybody, if you pull out your phone and you look for Forest and Flower, you'll find two addresses. One is a San Jose address, and then one is a Fremont address. And the reason is because we
started our business from my home kitchen.
Okay.
A little over 3.5 years ago in San Jose, right off the Alameda. Yeah, so we've just now finally built this brick and mortar, and we're super, super excited.
Yeah. Wow. Have you been a baker most of your life, or like where did the idea of baking start with you? Like, is this something that like you did as a kid, and then now your baking dreams have come true, or where's this coming from?
No. That's a hard no. Well, so growing up, I actually wanted to be a lot of different things, and I think one of those career choices that still I still wish maybe one day I can fulfill is to be a race car driver.
Oh, look at that. A race car. I could see that. Well, you know that Fremont was known for its racing.
I have no idea.
Yeah. So, the Baylands Speedway is down where, like Automall is now. That used to be a racetrack. And people, they would race it. They would race cars. This was the area that people from the Bay Area would come down to watch the races right here in Fremont.
Okay, second career, here I come.
That's right. Okay, so one of the careers you wanted was race car driver. What else?
Well, I mean, there were other things too, but the reason why I ended up being a baker, so I never went to school. Culinary was never something, in the books or in life really for me. But when I lived in New York, I was opened up to just a variety of different foods, and I was really it's a culinary melting pot in New York.
Right.
And that's where I began eating all type of food, and where I really fell in love with food.
Yeah.
And so when I lived there, I started helping out in the kitchen. I was working at a jazz club at the time, and the chef that was there, I went up to him and I just said, "Hey, Eric, I'm thinking about going to culinary school. What do you think?" He just looked at me and he was like, "Well, why don't you come work in the kitchen and see if you like it first?"
It's not the way it is on TV all the time. Yeah, those cooking shows might be deceiving a bit.
Yeah, so I did. I went in and I worked for him, and I really, really loved it.
Okay. Now, what kind of food was that? Was it baking goods, or was there a particular type of food?
It was American restaurant food.
Okay.
It was music venue food, but pretty upscale.
Okay.
Yeah. And so at the time I worked at Highline. I'm not sure if they're still there. So that is a second music venue of the owners of the jazz club that I worked at.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So that I loved it, and I was like, yeah, I want to work in the kitchen. This is so cool. And there's just it's not glamorous is not the right word, but it has this glamorous appeal.
Yeah.
It's like you get an adrenaline rush being on the line.
Yeah.
So when I moved to Hawaii, and after I had my son, who is now 13.
Wow. Yeah.
I went back and worked in the kitchen.
Okay.
And I really liked it.
This was in Hawaii that you were working in the kitchen as well?
This was in Hawaii. So I worked in two kitchens when I was in Hawaii. One is an Italian kitchen. Another one is the Pineapple Room by Alan Wong. He's a celebrity chef in Hawaii.
Nice.
And I just loved the kitchen crew there. They were amazing. They were there to teach me. We were a tight crew.
Okay.
Yeah, that was really cool. And then when I moved back to the Bay Area, we kind of had other plans. So I actually went back to City College in San Francisco for fashion design.
Wow.
I've always wanted to do something in fashion. And
is that the reason you moved to New York?
Okay, we're gonna go there.
We don't have to. I was just gonna toss that out there.
So when I was 17 and lived in San Francisco, I started doing a little bit of modeling.
Okay.
Yeah, and so one of the reasons why I moved to New York was that I wanted to do some more modeling there.
Yeah.
That was the plan, but it didn't happen that way.
So then you wanted to get into fashion design later on.
Yeah, because I always, beauty is one of those things, like when you see something beautiful, and I think fashion conveys that when you and especially when you put on a dress or a garment.
Yeah.
It just makes you feel a certain way.
Yeah.
Right. If it's something that's really powerful or beautiful. So that's something that I really loved. So I went to San Francisco College and my plan was to do a 2-year associate's degree. Almost got done, but then life had its other plans. Wow. So I went back to work in the kitchen.
Okay.
And in the hospitality industry.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you at this point now, it sounds like you worked in at least 4 kitchens then. So 2 in Hawaii, 1 in New York, and then you went back into working in the kitchen in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Then.
So back in San Francisco, I worked at two, maybe 3 other kitchens.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, but it doesn't sound like any of those kitchens you were doing baked goods yet.
No, I was not. I was really just doing the salad station and trying just to learn more.
Okay.
And
were there any of those particular foods that you were that you enjoyed cooking that were not like, because you're doing baked goods now, but like was it Italian or was it the American food in New York, or what was there any particular one that stood out to you that you really enjoyed working with? Or
not really. I do remember growing up, cooking really brought me a lot of joy, because that is one thing. My mom wasn't really always around because she was working all the time, single mother, and I jumped from a lot of different places. And so feeding myself was one of those things that at the end of the day, I can always count on.
Yeah.
And kitchens just feels like a safe place for me. And it's also a playground for me. I just remember my mom would say, "Oh, you would put all these weird things together." and then you would bring it out. And then we're just like, ew, what is this? So
my grandmother, when we'd go to her house, we have a family joke that when my grandmother would be trying to feed all of us grandkids and she didn't really have a plan, she would just get together whatever she had in the kitchen, whatever was in the refrigerator, and make something out of it. And the joke was always that we'd ask, "Grandma, what did you make?" And she'd say, "Shut up and eat it." And that was the name of the food. So we'd always come to my grandma's house and say, "Grandma, what do we eat?" And she's like, "Are we eating Shut Up and Eat It?" "Yep." "Sit down."
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I am going to use that like as a joke, but totally. That's awesome.
That's great.
We'll be right back with the rest of the conversation in just a moment. If you haven't noticed, the housing market is all over the place. Whether you own a home or you are interested in buying a home, it's important that you have the right person working with you to help you make your dream actually a reality. Well, I don't think that there's anyone better in Fremont or in the Fremont area than Petrocelli Homes. Petrocelli Homes is a local family-owned business that has been in the housing industry for many years. Beginning as a home builder, John and Jennifer Petrocelli know the ins and outs of the homes in this area like no one else. If you're looking for somebody who will treat you like family and will help you find some stability in this crazy housing market, I can't suggest anyone better than Petrocelli Homes on Niles Boulevard. Here is a quick conversation that I had with a customer at Dale Hardware.
Here, you can see it on the microphone over there. So what's your name?
Hello, my name's Hanako.
Okay, and you live in Fremont?
Yeah, I live in Fremont.
How long have you lived in Fremont?
My whole life, so 19 years.
Wow. What are some of the things you like about Fremont?
I like that, it's kind of homey, but at the same time, there's, a lot of stuff to do. I don't know, I've lived here my entire life, but, sometimes I'm still finding stuff oh my God, there's this new store that just opened. I didn't know that it was here. And it's
that's awesome. What kind of hobbies do you do? What kind of things do you like to do?
I like to draw. I'm a band kid, so I play the trumpet.
Nice. So you're at Dale Hardware today. What did you guys come to pick up?
Yeah, we're fertilizing our hydrangeas.
Okay.
Yeah, and we also heard that there's a macaw here, so we came to see the macaw.
Did you see him?
Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. Do you guys come here often?
Yeah, my mom, she likes it here.
Once a week.
She loves the hardware store.
That's
she's
great.
She's like a dad, except she's like a old Asian woman.
Well, that's awesome. And have you been shopping here for a long time?
Yeah,
Years.
Everybody knows you're here. People are like, oh my God, it's the dog.
That's awesome. Yeah, you have the coolest dog I think I've ever seen. Black and white face. That's awesome. That's really cool.
She's like a nervous dog, though. So.
Well, thank you for having a conversation with me. I appreciate it. It was good to meet you.
Thank you. It was really nice to meet you too.
Well, Dale Hardware is such a great place for you to find the things that you need when you're working on home projects. It's also a great place to find advice and help to know exactly how to use the products that you're buying, to use the tools that you're using, and to know exactly what you're doing. Make sure you're doing the things the right way. And so Dale Hardware offers great customer service. And along with that, as you heard in this conversation, there are great events that are happening all the time at Dale Hardware. And there are really great events happening all around the community. Now, back to our episode.
Yeah, so you explored a lot of different types of foods, and you had a lot of different experiences. So when did you get into baking then?
Okay, so I also became a personal trainer and a nutrition coach at one point in my life.
Okay.
And so I started actually meal prepping for some of my clients. And that's when I said, oh, okay, maybe this is something that I can do. But after some research, I realized because we didn't have money to start a business, I realized there's something called the cottage food operation where I can just make food out of my home.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, what is it called? The
cottage food operation.
Okay.
It's short for CFO. CFO for short for cottage food operation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And this allows you to do commercial, like professional food out of your home then?
Yeah. So there are two classes in this category. There's the Class A and Class B. Class A is direct to consumer only.
Okay.
Class B, which costs a little bit more in permitting fee, will allow you to sell through third party.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. And so you found out about this and you decided to do it in your home.
I decided to do it in my home. The catch is it can only be non-perishable food.
Oh.
So I can be making a chicken salad or or a fish stew.
Okay.
And so at the time, so I have been gluten-free and dairy-free for the past, I want to say 10 to 12 years now. And so my diet is quite, my options are a bit limited. And at a lot of times when I go to grocery stores, the foods out there would contain a lot of junky ingredients, lots of sugar, or it might be gluten-free, but they have milk.
Okay.
So one of the reasons why we started Forest and Flour was the woman who I used to get my bread from at the Santa Clara Farmers Market stopped making them. So I decided that I would need to start baking my own.
Okay.
And so that just kind of spread and took off.
So, I was going to ask because we hadn't talked about that yet, but I was curious. I was looking at your Instagram before I got over here to your shop, and, it says gluten-free, dairy-free, and then there's just like a list of things that is like, it's all of these things free. I was trying to imagine what could actually be in it then if it's
magic.
Free. Magic, that's right. So I'm not a baker. I have one. My first time, I can't remember if I told this on another episode or not, but my first time trying to bake anything, I was trying to bake chocolate chip cookies, and I was a teenager. And I thought that I had read the recipe correctly, and I was doing a double batch, so it was like I doubled everything that was in the recipe. And all the units of measurement that I was using to make these chocolate chip cookies was like a cup of this, a cup of that, whatever. And I got to salt, and it said like I read a cup of salt, and I threw a cup of, and it was double batch, so I threw 2 cups of salt in there, and then it said like stir the batter until it's golden brown, and I kept stirring. It was just like these white chunks, like it was just not turning golden brown. And then my sister came in, and she's like, "What are you doing?" And I told her, and she was like, there was not a cup of salt. You should not. I was like, yeah, it said it. So I looked at it. It said like a teaspoon of salt, if you want it. And it was just like this optional element. So it was just that was my first and probably might be my only experience actually baking. So maybe not. I probably baked a few other things. I mean, I can't imagine trying to bake without all these extra ingredients that that your baked goods are free of, which is pretty. So how hard was that for you to learn? How hard was it for you to learn these how to do this?
Honestly, I don't think it was that hard.
Okay.
I think because that's the way I eat, I don't have an option, and I don't have celiac. So imagine the people that do that. If they have any gluten in their food, they have to go to the hospital.
Wow. Yeah.
So, you know, I'm lucky, but because of the limitation that forced me to need to be creative and just be really playful.
Did you ever question whether this was a good idea, or were you pretty much convinced that this was something that was needed out there and that people would be interested in?
I think I was really just thinking, well, we're going to try it. There's nothing to lose. And if it doesn't work out, then it doesn't work out. I was going to this yoga studio, and quite a bit of people there also have similar eating patterns. So I was able to share my food with them, and people really love them. And a good friend of mine, Jen, who's been so supportive since day one, she's just like, wow, this is so good. You should totally sell it. And I remember we used to have little tasting parties at my home. And so it was really just from the place, let's try it and see what happens.
Was that like a memorable point when your friend Jen, was that a memorable point when you thought, no, this could work, or this is a good idea? I mean, was there a point where you're like, let's experiment, to, no, this is a good idea and we're going to go with it? Do you have a point where you remember that?
My personality is let's do it and find out. So that's
that's great. I love it.
Yeah, and that
and I will get along then.
That actually drives my team crazy.
Yeah.
It drives my partner crazy.
Yeah. I'm the same way. I'm just like, I think about the idea. I'm like, no, there's like no here. It's like, we're going for it and it's going to work.
Yeah. I remember telling, someone said, we can't do that. Or someone said, I can't do that, referring to themselves. And I think my reply was, there's no can't here.
Right. That's good. That's good. I can't even imagine trying to run a baking business out of my home. I mean, that's got to be insane. But you've been working out of your home for the last 3.5 years. And now we are sitting in a brick and mortar shop. Like, what has that been like? What is the process of moving from, doing everything out of your home to now trying to make this a reality? Because I've been following you a little bit on social media, and I've been seeing your posts. Even right now, you're in the middle of a fundraiser trying to see this thing through, right?
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about that, what it's been like to transition from doing your business out of your home to where we are now.
Having a business out of my home at the beginning was a lot of fun because it was very exciting. It's still very exciting, but my home has just been taken over completely by business. So there's just ingredients everywhere. My office there's just tons of boxes in there. I have a 13-year-old, so at some point, we do just want to come home at the end of the day to a home,
Yeah.
Kick our feet up and chat about our day.
Yep.
But right now, or for the past 3.5 years, I think the past 2 years were probably the hardest. Running a business out of the home.
Just because of the demand, or just because of the inconvenience, or all of the above, or what exactly?
It's the sacrifice that we made of not having a real home space. I think that's what it is.
I got you.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's super convenient because you wake up and then you're at work.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited that you're here in Fremont because you live in San Jose and that's where you've been doing your work. So why did you pick Fremont? Like, what about Fremont made this your choice? I mean, obviously there's sometimes just logistical or just obvious things that there wasn't anything available, or I don't know, what was the reason you ended up in Fremont?
Yeah, that's a great question because sometimes I keep asking that question myself. So when we were searching for a place, we've been searching for a place, I think, since year 2 of our business because we saw there was a strong demand, and but it was really hard finding a place. We looked at a place in Willow Glen that didn't quite pan out, and then we got connected to a broker who showed us this current space. We thought the area is adorable, and also we have a very strong farmers market presence.
Okay.
So it's very central location, Fremont. It's easy to get to Oakland, Los Gatos, San Jose, San Francisco, and when we expand to Marin, that, it's just a central location.
Okay.
And but after we started doing the work here, and we had that Better Block event, which we were at, we met a ton of people in the community, and we were just amazed by how great everyone is. And there just seems to be a strong community spirit.
That's
here.
awesome.
And we really love that. And then the second thing, it's also after the fact, after we started working here, we are on stolen land. We're on a lonely land of the Muwekma tribe people.
Okay.
And one of the things that Forest and Flower is working on is really to honor this land.
That's great.
And we also need to honor the people that steward the land. And the indigenous peoples have been here stewarding the land long before us.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's a great point. Great segue into the obvious question. Where does the name Forest and Flower come from? How did we get this? Because I love the fact that you have a missional aspect to what you're doing as far as what your shop represents and the actual location that it is, that it's placed in. So tell me a little bit about how that vision that you have of kind of repurposing this land, this space for, its original inhabitants, and how that factors into the name of the shop.
Yeah. So I think it's important for us to find ways that we can honor what's here. One of the things that I have learned from the land and nature herself is that, like the forest, we are made up of individual different things that actually make the whole ecosystem thrive. And I really want to honor that. There's no mistakes in nature. Everything has its purpose, and everything work together with one another so we can all have a great community. Yeah. That's
great. That metaphor it's more than a metaphor. It's a reality that we need to reflect on, that because you think about it, California is known for its farming. And so you can go down south of here, all around here, and you've got these farms where they've removed every, natural plant out of the ground, and they've planted things that would grow. And you have like this this what do they call it? A monolithic or whatever.
Mono agriculture.
Yeah. And so it's just like, you just have lettuce, or you just have, berries or whatever, and you've got all that, which I think that we benefit from, as a general public. But the truth is, what you were saying is that, if you leave it alone and you allow everything just to grow as it's naturally going to grow, there's even something more beautiful and healthy about that I think we don't value the way it ought to be valued.
Yeah. I'm not a great history person, but I think after industrialization, we just want things cheaper, bigger, faster. And that is working against nature. And that's another conversation about monoagriculture. That's seriously a huge thing that I actually, as a team, we talk a lot about, and also with our customers. And that's why we want to support the small, local, organic, regenerative farmers, because they're doing the work that needs to be done. Just when you are only growing one crop and then all the nutrients are out of the ground, and then you move on and there's a dust field right there.
Yep.
So, again, that's another long conversation, but we just really need to have a moment of reflection. I think in our busy lives, just to really stop and think and look and reflect when we see nature. What are the lessons that we can learn? Because there are a lot of things out there that she's teaching us.
Right. That's awesome. That's really great. Well, I think that there's a lot of conversations that we could have, ongoing conversations. Because I when I just came in the shop here just a little bit ago, you were telling me how much you learned about just the whole process of starting a brick and mortar, building all of this out, working with engineers, working with architects, all that stuff. And I think that could be a really long conversation. You probably have a lot that people could learn from you just reflecting on this. But I think the question that I'd be interested in you answering, maybe as we kind of wrap things up, what is it that you hope to bring to the community? I know that you've already mentioned some of your ideas behind, why you're here, why you're doing what you're doing. But what is it that when people reflect on this, and maybe a year from now when this is up and functioning, it's a staple of our community and people are coming in and out, what is it that you want to bring? What is it that you want to leave with the community here?
I want this space to be a space where people can come and gather and feel loved. So and this actually, one of our team members, Jackie, talked about this. A while back, I sent out, I was trying to get team members to give me feedback on, okay, here are company values. What do these values mean to you? And I think one of the values was creating wow. And Jackie's answer, and I'm paraphrasing here, but she said, I want people to feel loved. And I think that is, earlier we were talking about some things that everybody wants, right? Everybody wants to be happy. Everybody wants to have food. But one of the things is that we all want to be loved in one way or another in some ways. And I think no matter, even if we have different opinions, we have different backgrounds or different stories, I think we can all share love in the community. Because when the people that might seem the most minority in the community thrives, everybody will thrive. Right. And so we want to create a space for people to gather, for people to be able to enjoy food or a cup of drink together, to have honest and direct conversations together, and not worried that they're going to be judged.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Do you, you're leading that on your own. Like I can see, I love the fact that you're having your team think through the core values and everything that you want to be known for as a company, that you want to put forward as a company. And I love that, because I think that a lot of times we just run with, an idea, a whim, and we don't think about what it means for the people around us and the people that we're working with. I have a question along with that, because on your Instagram, it also says bossy Asian woman owned. So I'm trying to figure out how the bossy Asian woman owned factors in with loving the community. Does that work together?
No, it does. You also have to have boundaries. You have to be very clear of the type of person that you are or that you want to be. James Clear, who wrote the book Atomic Habits, I'm paraphrasing again. I think he said something along the line, each action you take is basically for the person you wish to become. So
it's what's a yes to or something like I think I know exactly. I've heard that before. Yeah.
I have it printed out and hung up in my house because I love it so much. But the action you are taking every day, it literally is what kind of person do you want to be, and those actions needs to reflect who you want to be.
That's great.
And I do think, especially running a business, and also just even if you're not running a business, being very clear of who you are, but that also means to have boundaries.
That's great.
Sometimes you have to say no.
Mm-hmm. You've got to be a bossy Asian woman.
Sometimes you have to say no. Sometimes you have to say yes. Sometimes you have to say, that's a good idea. Let's try it out, even though I didn't come up with it.
Right.
Sometimes you have to say, I'm sorry, I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to say, we're just not going to do that. Let's call it a day because we're all, can I curse?
Sure.
Okay, we're all fucking tired. And because we've had 3 events and 5 farmers markets, and let's just take a day off.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
so
that's good.
To be able to be in a leadership position and notice what is best for the team right now. I think that's important.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's great. Well, how can we help you? How can the community help you right now? Because you're not quite open yet. I can see so many beautiful glimpses of what it's going to be. But we're sitting in a space that has a lot of stuff still that needs to be done. And I know a lot of people are looking forward to visiting here. So what can we as a community do to help you get open and running?
Thank you. Well, we are still crowdfunding right now, fundraising through this platform called Mainvest. And the reason we chose Mainvest is because they connect everyday people with small business owners to raise money. So instead of us having to go to a bank to get loans and pay them interest, we're paying you interest.
That's awesome. That's kind of cool. So it's different than like a Kickstarter in that the Kickstarter is pretty much you're asking for a gift or a donation. With Mainvest, it's almost becoming an investor.
It is an investment.
Okay.
Yeah. So the link is on our website as well as on our Instagram, which is at Forest and Flour. Flour is FLOUR, like flour you bake with.
Yeah.
The minimum investment is $100.
Okay.
There are perks in there. So, for example, if you would like to partake in a exclusive dinner made with local organic ingredients,
nice.
There's that perk there, and there's a certain amount of investment required. And other than that, I think we are only $7,500 away from our $50,000 goal.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, we're really excited.
Congratulations, that's
Thank
awesome.
You.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
I think I looked a week or 2 ago and you were not that close, so you've obviously had some investment since then.
Yes, yeah. Everybody has just been really supportive,
That's
and
great.
We're just really blessed.
Man.
Yeah, so the campaign will close in about 8 or 9 days.
Okay.
So if people would like, if you have the means to invest, $100 is the minimum, and you will get $125 back.
That's cool.
And also, even if you don't want to invest, that's okay. We're still here. Please come by and say hi.
Do you have a trajectory date that you're hoping to get open?
So our official soft opening day is Friday, October 21st.
Okay. Awesome.
Yes. So
Very good.
we'll have music, we'll have ribbon cutting.
I'm going to have to be here.
Yes.
I'm going to have to be here.
Yes. Please be here. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's very cool. Well, thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
Thank you for
Ricky.
sharing your vision and your heart with us. And people, you need to come down here and get to know Sway and get to know the people that work here and sharing this the love that they have to share with the community.
Thank you, Ricky.
Yeah.
I was very nervous. I don't know if you can tell.
You were great.
Let me just call that out there.
There you go. Perfect. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks, Ricky.
You've been listening to the Fremont Podcast. Be sure to subscribe wherever it is that you listen so you don't miss an episode. And if you're so inclined, leave a kind review so that others can find the podcast. To stay connected with us, you can find links to our social media and other content at thefremontpodcast.com. This episode was hosted and produced by Ricky B. Music provided through Soundstripe.com. I'm Gary Williams. Join us next week on the Fremont Podcast.
There's another conversation that can go on for a very long time, right?
By the way, we already determined that we talked a long time before, and Sway, I think she's going to be the person that interviews me about who I am and why we started the podcast. So that might have to be an episode coming up because she's had a lot of great questions.
I'm down.
She's going to be the next Fremont podcast host. So she's great.
Guest host.
There you go.
How's
Guest
that?
host. There you go. All right. So sorry, not to derail that, but what were you saying?
This is Muggins Media.